enjoy. And we'll be sending out the recording either later today or more than likely probably tomorrow. So that way each of you get to enjoy this recording. So because honestly, 80% of the things that I say, you may forget, which is a normal human thing to do. So I encourage you just to relax, enjoy it. If you have questions, go ahead and ask the questions, please. But don't be compelled to be following every single step that I'm doing. So first of all, logging in as Zipforms Plus. How many have not created a user ID and a password for C.A.R? Okay, so we haven't done so. So let's go over that together. So the first step is you have to log into the California Association of REALTORS website by going to CAR.org. When you go to CAR.org, you're going to typically see an individual sitting in a chair. But before you do that, we're going to recommend that you click sign in. On the top right corner was a sign in button, and you would have to register for the first time. When you click register, it's going to ask you a series of questions. Now, one of the questions will be, what is your National Realtor Database System ID number? I think they're going to rename it as an M1 number. But hi.
Keep going.
Keep going. All right. So this number is a 9-digit number, which is going to be different than your GRE license number, which is 8 numbers long. So your 9-digit National Realtor Database System ID number or your M1 number, that's been assigned to you by the association. There's a lot of different video filters. We'll take a look at it later. So you'll go through those steps. You'll go through entering your number, entering your last name, and then you go click submit. If you don't know what your National Realtor Database System ID number is, no worries. Just see one of our staff members out there and they can be able to assist you with it. Or you can give us a call after the class, or because our class will end today at roughly 11 o'clock, you can just see any one of us. We can be able to assist you with it. After doing that, you're going to be asking to verify your email. So this is one of the important things to make sure your email address with us is correct all the time. Because if the email address that we have on file for you is incorrect, you're not going to get any notifications from C.A.R. as well as in case you forget your password, you won't be able to reset your password. When you get that verification code, you enter that verification code in, and then you're going to click continue. And then you're going to create a username and a password. This is one of the most frequent questions that we get is what is my user ID and my password for the California Association of Realtors? And we're going to tell you, we don't know because it's something that you created. So do make it an easy username, but make the password complex. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have capabilities of hacking websites, and please don't let your account be hacked by anyone. Now you would enter your user ID and your password to the California Association of Realtors website. When you do so, now this step, which you see here, let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to get out of this presentation. Here's California Association of Realtors website. By the way, get that out there. This person sitting here, that could be you. All you have to do is just kind of refresh the page and it keeps changing. Now, how can that be you? You would just float your mouse over here to this spot, over Dwayne Brady's name. You'll see submit an application. So this is something that you can easily submit an application and see if you're one of those that are chosen to be able to market yourself for free to all realtor members. So it is free marketing. So do take advantage of it. You can. One of our realtor members, actually, there's a few realtor members that do pop up on here. But to access Zipforms, the large circle to the left of this individual will be Realtor Secure Transactions. You're going to click that. And we're going to scroll down. And we're going to click Transaction Zipform Edition. It's the first choice under the C.A.R. member benefits. After you click that, good morning. You're going to click Access Now. And as you see, there's a lot of other tools that you can take advantage of. But we're going to focus on this today. Transaction Zipform Edition. I have to log in. See, I have to put in my username, my password, and then click sign in. If I were to forget my username and password, then I have to go through those steps to verify my information. before I can log in. But once I sign in, we're gonna have to wait for the gold ticket to pop up. There it is, continue to transactions. And now I click it. Now it opens up a separate window in Microsoft Windows. Now, if your pop-up blocker is disabling on new Windows, then you'll have to disable it for the C.A.R. website. If you don't, you won't be able to see your transactions. So here it is. There's the layout of it. Now, the first thing I like doing when I go into Zipforms. Now, by the way, when you go into Zipforms, you won't see any of these tiles here because these are my fictitious transactions that I've been using to practice. And I encourage everybody to practice as much as you possibly can. Let me move this out of the way. So the first thing when I teach a class is I recommend to go into your profile. In the top right corner, you'll see an image of an icon of a person. Won't have your picture yet. That's something you have to add. But if you were to click it, click Profile and Settings. And then the first step will be About Me. So you want to make sure About Me is correct. You want to make sure your name is correct. Your email address is correct. Your phone number. I even put in my extension number, my fax number if you need it. My fictitious license number. And then a lot of people overlook the email signature. The email signature is going to be included with any correspondence that you send either to your clients or other agents. This is something I created on my own. You always want to include your contact information as well as your DRE license number. So you want to make sure it's done the correct way, and there's a certain format you have to follow, and that's provided to you probably by your broker or by the Department of Real Estate. So that's one important screen to look at. The other important screen to look at would be offices. Now, from time to time, our agents will transfer from one office to another, and you want to make sure that this information is correct. If there's anything that is incorrect, for example, let's say I am no longer working at the Fountain Valley location, I'm working out of the Laguna Hills location, but my profile has not been updated through the board. Well, I have to send in a member transfer form, and that'll be signed by my broker as well as by myself. And when I send over to the board to be able to update that information in my profile, then I can go up here to make the changes. If I do this first before sending in the transfer form, this won't stick because it's going to verify this information through your National Association of REALTORS record. So if let's say I were to say, oh, I work in the Bried location, there's no Bried location. But let's say I put in Bried, then this would drop either later today or tomorrow. It would stick because it's not in my profile. Another thing to look at would be settings. Now, we have a choice of digital signing services. We have a choice of using Authentisign, which is built into Zipforms, or we can use DocuSign. In our next class at 1 o'clock today, we're going to teach the differences and the similarities between Authentisign and DocuSign. DocuSign is a paid service. I believe it's $240 a year. I hope that's correct. Yes, roughly $240 a year. Authentisign, you don't pay anything for it, at least in this state. That's a California Association of REALTORS benefit. In other states, you do have to pay for Authentisign. But if you wanted to use your DocuSign account, you would simply just click DocuSign, and then you have to link your DocuSign account by logging into DocuSign with your user ID and your password that you created. Yes, you had a question.
Side of Hawaii is Authentisign. Do you have to pay for it in Hawaii?
That I don't know. I only know California.
No, I'm sure I can look it up and see.
Yeah, that would be a question with by contacting one of the boards out there.
Oh yeah, no, I'm with that board. I just wondered.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, sorry about that. And then another thing to look at when you do this page right here is if we scroll down just a little bit, transaction preferences. Yes, you had a question. The email option. Choose if you want to receive a confirmation email from Zipforms Plus when signed documents are available to download. That is separate from confirmation notifications coming from your selected e-signing service. For me, I keep those things on because I want to get notified every time something happens within one of my transactions.
They send me ether. Oh.
Yes, do you want to elaborate further on that, Anthony?
What?
Under our settings, under email signatures, email options, there's, let me put my glasses back down. Sorry.
So the sign will send you an automatic email notification, number one, anytime one of your clients signs their documents. But more importantly, we'll send you an email notification upon completion after all signers are done signing. And usually in that email will be a link to download the signed documents as well as download the attachments of the signed documents that you can do. If you turn that off, then you're not notified. Doesn't mean that it's not completed, you're just not notified about it.
You're also notified too if they review it and don't sign it.
That's true too. So if they open it up, but they don't sign it, you're sent a notification as well. So you want to leave that on.
Anyway, they send you the email, right?
They-
Or no?
It's an email notification. So in your email, it says Leo Luera has opened up the AuthentiSign. Right?
Yeah, otherwise you'll
And then
just,
it'll say Leo has completed signing the AuthentiSign. And then at the end, the AuthentiSign session is fully complete. So you want to be notified of those things because maybe this young lady, one of my clients, she wanted to sign it, told me she was going to sign in 15 minutes, but then I noticed I haven't gotten the signed documents because maybe she got distracted. Maybe she went out to lunch. Maybe she decided to talk it over with her spouse before signing the documents, but she opened up the email. Those are things that we want to be apprised of to be able to have conversations if necessary.
So
What
if
can
you're
you-
doing
Anyway, when they sign, they don't send you the email.
Correct, they do not.
They do not.
They do not.
Okay. Okay, that's
Also,
what I did.
if you get a notification that someone's signed it or reviewed it, once it's completed, you know to send it to the buyer or the seller, whoever needs to sign it next. So that way you can keep your documents on time, because some things you only have 3 to 5 to 7 days to finish on the contract to get it to the buyer or the seller.
And the system will automatically send it to the next
Okay.
signer, but it won't send it to anybody else unless you tell it to after completion.
Okay, thank you.
and there may be those who don't want to be notified via email because they'll have their Zipform account open all the time. They have to keep refreshing their account because it does time out over a certain time. And you will get notified typically through Zipforms, through this little bell on the top right corner next to my image. That will notify you as well, but I prefer to be notified as any way possible, so that way I can be able to take care of my client ASAP. Oh, by the way, yes, well, that's that portion. Another important thing that I think is this under the same settings, under email e-signs options would be transaction preferences. Now, this is often overlooked. By default, it's turned off for whatever reason. Now, for some of us who grew up with Windows 95, 98, and even a little bit before that, Windows 3.1, we did homework assignments, we did work assignments, and we would do a lot of typing, and then all of a sudden the computer would malfunction, or we would lose signal, or we lose power. Then everything that we typed up would disappear. Now, for someone like my 12-year-old stepson, that's going to be something that he's never going to encounter. But for us, we were like, oh, that was so frustrating. For some reason, this is turned on. So I recommend put it to 5. So that way it will save whatever you're typing every 5 minutes. So if we have that big old earthquake, which we're supposed to have a training on statewide today sometime, I think 10 o'clock. I don't think we're going to do it here today though. But if we were to have an earthquake, if there's some kind of disaster, or we just have a power outage, one of those summer brownouts, then if we lost power, then we would only lose the last 5 minutes what we typed at the most. So I strongly recommend that you have it set for 5 minutes. So that way it automatically saves everything you type. And you won't lose that much information. And there's a lot of other information here. You could do some research, mortgage calculator default interest rate. That will change as time will change, et cetera. And then notifications. You could be able to go into here and be notified via email. Every time send notifications 2 days before, send notifications 2 days after, et cetera. There's a number of different things that you can be able to customize within Zipforms. So that's just the basic stuff. Once we get out of this, get out here. Sure, please.
Chrome versus Safari, because sometimes I use Safari and I have issues.
Anthony's head's waving, bobbing up and down, yes. I prefer Chrome.
MLS is the same way.
I prefer Chrome. Anthony prefers Chrome. It's a stable platform. Safari and other browsers, you could try to see if it works for you, but we've encountered some issues from time to time and heard some agents encounter with problems with it from time to time with the different browsers. But for us, we use Chrome as a rule of thumb.
And it's really important stuff too, because there's been times where signatures don't show up. Even though they've signed it, right? And I have proof that they've signed it. So there's a-
Because Safari's not reading it, and that's why you want Chrome. Not to mention, a lot of times you'll run into more problems with sending out documents initially because certain buttons will not appear in Safari versus Chrome. So Chrome is your more stable platform.
And I'm not sure that it matters on the other end when you send it sign or you send it via DocuSign,
Doesn't
because that's a whole different thing. It's just what's on card.
Mhm.
Yes. So yeah, yeah. Let me give you an example about browser issues. I was teaching a class and not recently, actually just recently, and I was within Zipforms, and then there was the funniest thing is this button here, transactions. For the life of me, I would click it and nothing would happen. I couldn't get into my transactions. So I had to figure out, okay, so what's the backup plan? Well, then I had to go into my dashboard and then I had to go in, take a look at my dashboard to see what recent activity I did. And then I was able to get into my transaction that way. So I could look at my transactions that I've done previously and was able to access them this way. By the way, the dashboard is set up to help you keep track of all the tasks that you set up. Because within Zipforms, you can assign tasks. I guess the copy hasn't kicked in. You can assign tasks for every transaction you're working on. When the inspection is going to be, when you have to verify information of your client, et cetera. You want to follow up with all other steps with the transaction as you're helping your client through the whole process of either buying a home or selling a home. That is something you would set up from either within the transaction itself, or you can go into task itself, but it would show up here and you would keep track of it this way. You can also keep track of things you've done, like I said, over here. So that way you can automatically just click the link and it'll automatically go into it rather than clicking transactions. But yeah, that was just one of the weird things about using a browser that when it was misbehaving. So I've showed you how to log in as Zipforms. Let's create a transaction. Now I'm going to just grab a listing from a recent search. Let's go into, I don't know. Let's choose this one from old searches. There we go. We'll choose this one. Oh, actually, no, let's go back to the other one. I saw an OC one. There's an OC one. Okay, no way am I promoting this person. No way am I promoting this listing. I'm just using this particular listing because it just happens to be handy. That's all. So how do I create a transaction? Now we see this new button. This is where you can be able to create a new transaction, whether it be in the transaction heading or in the dashboard. So a new transaction. So it's weird how it says new transaction and transaction, it'll say just new. I guess they got tired of just writing new transaction. So you click new and then you're given a choice. It's either a new listing, a new purchaser offer, a new lease listing, or a quick sign. Now, since this is a fictitious offer on a property, I'm going to click new purchaser offer. I'll put in the person's name, client. Now, honestly, you could put in the person's name, you can put in the address, you can put in a mixture of both. I'm gonna just write down client demo. Now I can put in the address of the particular listing that I'm going to put an offer on, or I'm going to choose a category residential, by the way, or I can use MLS Connect. MLS Connect is
Or the easiest way.
It is very easy because it automatically links the information from CRMLS over to your Zipform account. And it will populate everything that the listing agent has inputted into that listing into your future documents. So when I click MLS Connect, it'll tell me that I'm using CRMLS. It's a property. I'm going to put in the listing ID. I'm putting the listing ID. If I can hit the right buttons. There we go. I like visuals, so I'm going to include a photo, and then I'm going to click find. It's going to be looking within my MLS account and look for the property, and there it is. So there's the listing ID, there's the address, and agent's ID, etc. So I use the listing. And there's information if I wanted to change the status of it. I'm going to use active because it's a new offer. Templates, we'll talk about that later, but it's a way of populating documents in there. And then I am going to have to turn off. Oh, no, there it is. I can click the button. This would hit. Typically, you would see the word save here, but because I'm talking so much, it's interfering with it. So let me get rid of this. Let's see. That didn't help. There we go. Get that out of the way. And then you get out of the way. There it is. That's the word save right there. Click save. And now I can get into a transaction. I'm going to drag this back down. And then put this up here, somewhere other way. So the first thing that pops up will be the summary. The summary will be the information of this listing. And this is the information that's been populated by them. So you sometimes they'll write down the school district. There's the assessor parcel number, which you probably have to pull it in from some different source. This is where you can be able to put the offer date. You can put in the expiration date. Let's say the 31st. And we have a purchase price. I don't know. Let's say 250,000. You can always ask.
Yeah.
You can always ask. Well, if they say yay, yay, you know. The buying side, yeah. The worst they'll say is no, and with a laugh. Buying side commission summary, that's something that would be filled up by the listing agent, listing summary as well. Only be concerned about your portion of the transaction. And then now we go to the very top. So we just wrote down all the stuff that's we're paying attention to. There we go. We're going to click parties.
You do both if you're a dual agent.
Yes, you could do both. There would be more, yeah. So you want to make sure that you're really being detailed on both sides, of course. Parties, this is the listing agent. This is myself. I'm representing the buyer. And who's my buyer? I'm going to buyer 1. And you can go type in all the information of your client. If the client is a trust or a LLC, then you write down the trust information here, but then the individual who's going to sign on behalf of that trust, they're going to have their information there. But to simplify things, I'm going to use my fictitious person that I've created. Her name is Charlene Klein. Charlene Klein has been one of my regulars, and she's been able to do a number of transactions with me. And then I'm going to click save. So she is my one buyer. You can have multiple buyers, 1 buyer, 2 buyers, like a spouses. But in this demonstration, we're just practicing with just one person. Documents. Now, by default, there is one folder called archive folder. I and Anthony, we both recommend to add a folder called signed documents. Because every time you send documents out for signatures, you need to put them somewhere. Now, you don't want to put them mixed in with your regular documents because that'll be a little bit confusing. So by putting it in the signed documents folder, keep things a little bit organized. You can have multiple folders if you wanted to. Like, let's say you're representing a seller, you can have a folder for offer 1, offer 2, offer 3, offer 4, etc. But since we're going to put an offer on a property, let's just make one folder for signed documents. And then where are the documents? And you go on the far right, it'll say all forms. And when you click all forms, by default, it's going to be the California Association of REALTORS library. Now, there's different libraries to choose from. There is the Orange County Realtors Library, OC Realtors down there. There is the C.A.R. sample letters. Sample letters are kind of cool because, like, let's say somebody's abandoned property, you want that picked up. You also have, let's say, fence repair. You know, locally, we have the Santa Ana winds that come by every so often and blow down some fences, wooden fences. I had that problem back when I was a kid all the time. So the fence repair you would choose, and this is something that was created by the C.A.R. Legal Hotline, C.A.R. Legal Department, I should say. And this is just showing you what it looks like. You can use this document and share it with the individual that needs to get this. And you can send out for signatures if you needed to. So this will be an example of what you would send out to the individual who needs to fix up that beautiful fence that blew down. Okay.
Then you edit that.
Oh yeah, you can edit, definitely. Because this is just a sample letter and you would send out to the individuals that need it. Now, if you want to make sure that what you're sending out is correct, because you're going to make some changes to it, you may want to just double check with your broker or with the California Association of REALTORS legal department, just to make sure it's okay. So where were we? Oh, adding forms. So we're going to change it to, as default, the California Association of REALTORS. And we're going to say, let's add this form. And we'll add this form. And we'll add, now if you know the code for the form, you would type in the code of the form and it pulls it up that way. If you don't know the code, but you know, like, maybe some words of the title of the form, then you can always find it that way. Because there's well over 300 different forms and disclosures that are on this list. So it will take a long time to be able to scroll down and find the right one. That's why I recommend just to be able to, once again, go into all forms, and we can just type in words that are part of the title and put it in there. And you just keep going on and on and on. Now, in my fictitious transaction, I'm not going to tell you this is what the forms you're going to need when you do a transaction, because I honestly don't know. This is something that you would know. You may have 20 forms that you'll need to be included based on the recommendations from your broker. Your broker may say there's going to be other forms. For example, if there's a form that the broker says, I need you to add a particular form that we've created in-house, you're going to add doc right over here. Now, if your form is on the computer or in Dropbox, Google Drive, Box, or OneDrive, this is where you're going to pull up. Now, I'm going to search for this document. Go to desktop, go into Zipforms, and we're going to say, let's just use proof of funds. And move this out of the way. So we're going to do proof of funds form, and we'll have it uploaded there. So now you have this document that was created outside of Zipforms that's uploaded into the documents. So you'll see that as you, and it's always recommended to every document that's related to this transaction, you keep loading it into this here, because this will stay here for 5 years. Excuse me. And then if you keep if you want to store the documents outside of zip forms, then I would heavily recommend it that you, strongly recommend that you keep it in a way that it's going to be encrypted and not going to be broken. We had a number of different individuals that had their documents hacked, and keep hearing it over and over again that a lot of databases keep getting hacked over and over again. So do keep those documents encrypted so that way the likelihood of someone getting into documents that belong to someone of your old clients won't be shared with anyone. Sip of cold coffee, not so good. So if you're wondering if this is it, no, there's a lot more involved, but if you're wondering what it looks like after we've added all the documents, etc., now we have this tile called client demo. And this is our first transaction that we've created online. And this is how you're going to do it. I recommend that you practice doing this over and over again so that way you get comfortable creating transactions. Definitely use a fictitious person like I did. Like my person, they have a Gmail account, which is my Gmail account. So that way I can be able to see it from both sides, from the agent's point of view, as well as from the client's point of view. So in case my client has questions, I can be able to answer the questions because I've had done this a number of times over and over again. So that's, my friends, how you do a transaction. Any questions about anything we've talked about so far? Yes.
On the forms, are you able to create a like standard form list? Are you able to create a template that has all the standard forms I'm going to use over and over?
Thank you. You can create a list of documents that you need. You may want to double check with your broker or the C.A.R. legal hotline to see if that's the right forms you'll need. We'll show you in just a moment templates, but it's something that you would put together on your own because perhaps the requirements by your office will be different than a different office if you were to transfer to a different office. Or even a different city. For example, San Francisco has their own set of forms, which is far different than out here in Southern California. And when you go into the C.A.R. library, there is their own individual library of forms. Oh, that feels good. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the coffee. All right. Submit for signatures. So in this demonstration, we're going to send out a document out for signature. And we're just going to, in the next class, we'll go into more detail of what it's going to look like. But to quickly show you how to send out documents for signature, you have a choice of doing a new e-sign within the transaction. You have a choice of clicking documents and clicking the individual document to e-sign it, or hit click e-sign there again, or you can click e-sign. It's kind of like, it's like in case you get to a situation like I can't find e-sign. Well, there's a number of different spots where you can do a signing. So if we click new over here, because I'm in the e-sign section, client demo, we're going to do residential purchase agreement, RPA. Now, here is very important. We're going to choose a folder for return signed documents to go into automatically. And this is where I'm going to put it in the signed documents folder, right over here. Once I choose that, I'm going to click done. So now, every time any documents are signed by my client or myself or anyone, it will automatically go in that folder. Set Authentisign as my default signing service. There it is. And then you want to make sure the time zone is correct as well. Because if it shows East Coast time, then you're going to have some issues. And when I mean issues, it'll be like a discrepancy between the time that it was signed in case you're ever called upon in a court case. In case someone were to say, I was not available at that time, and it'll be like, oh, we have the wrong time zone. So you don't want to be in that situation. This is the screen that we are in now. After setting this up, now I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit. So you'll see the name of it, client demo RPA. You have the ability here to print it. You have the ability to download it. You have the ability to save it. But we're gonna send it out for signatures. So the first thing is under signers, let's add participants. So we're gonna pull it not from myself and not from new, we're gonna pull it from transaction. Why are we doing that from transactions? Because if you pull it from new, then you would be the one responsible dragging and dropping signature, checkbox fields, because it won't know the reason for this person's role in this transaction. But if you pull it from the transaction, then Zipforms automatically knows that person's role in this transaction. So if I click add from transaction, I'm going to pick Charlene, and I could pick myself as well as the listing agent, but I'm just showing you what it looks like to sign up for signatures. And if I had more than one, I could, let's say, I'll show you what it looks like. Myself and the client. I could set a signing order, and then I can click select. Now, I have Charlene set up as number 1, and I'm number 2, but I can always flip it around here and have Charlene be number 2 and myself be number 1. If you're working with multiple buyers, multiple sellers, then you can be able to change the order because, like, let's say it's a married couple and they share the same email address. You want to be able to have the conversation first with the first available spouse. So you would set that person as number 1, talk to them, go over the whole transaction process, do your fiduciary duty, explain every section of that contract to them. And after you finish with them and having them sign it, then you say, okay, good. Now I can talk to your spouse. And then we'll go with number 2 person. And you'll go through the entire process with them as well. You don't want to ever be in a situation where, let's say it's Anthony and his wife. They both share the same email address, and I send them both at the same time. I don't want his wife to take his role and he take her role. That will be a drama that you don't want. So do a signing order so that way it prevents any drama. If you don't do that, then everyone receives the documents at the same time. If it's 2 different individuals, 2 different email addresses, that could be okay, but I recommend, and Anthony recommends as well, that we want to be able to talk to the individuals one at a time. So that way we can do our fiduciary duty, explain to them what they're signing for, what they're initialing for, so that way they're not surprised and years down the road, they don't accuse you of the agent who didn't explain everything out to them.
What if we put both of them number 1? So whichever they are earlier, you're fine.
This is both number 1s right now. These are both number 1s because there's no signing order.
No, I put spouse and wife, both of them number 1,
Mhm.
and then myself number 2. So whichever they are earlier, they sign. It doesn't matter, and then when both them finish, then I notify by the Zipform, okay, now it's your turn. That's what I do. I don't know.
Okay,
I believe
I could picture maybe a situation where you're doing it, where you're probably on speakerphone with both of them. They both have their own separate email addresses. And yeah, that would work. That would be fine.
But
Yeah.
sometimes one of them, they are earlier on their job. One of them, they definitely read the thing and just wife wanna just quick sign. The husband gonna read all of them. But it doesn't matter which of them they are available for.
Yeah, it's true. Different spouses have different roles in life. Like my wife, she's a registered nurse. Her hours are different than mine. So in fact, she had to work last Sunday. Sucked, but she had to work last Sunday. So if we were doing a transaction, yes, I'd be the available one on a weekend, but then she'd be available on that Wednesday to have the conversation and signing. But yes, you're totally okay to be able to do both ones at the same time, both spouses at number 1, and you can do number 2. Or you can leave it without a signing order, and you would just sign it when you're done with both of them. So that doesn't affect anything. But if there were more people involved and you wanted their signatures first before so-and-so signs it, then yes, you're doing the right thing. Any other questions about the signing order? Okay. So that's the signing order. Now we go into documents. Now we add a document or a form. Yeah, you see it there and you see it there. It's the same thing. Now we pull the documents straight from the transaction. Now, all the documents that are within Zipforms, this particular transaction, you don't have to pull it up. If you didn't want the fence repair, don't add it. The buyer representation, compensation agreement, you want the residential purchase agreement, that's fine. Bed bug disclosure, you don't need that. Proof of funds, let's include that. But if there's any other documents that you need to upload from your computer, you can be able to do that here by pulling it from your computer or Google Drive, Dropbox, or OneDrive or Box. You can do that as well. But since I've finished adding my forms, I can change the order of them as well. I can do the residential purchase agreement first, or I can do it as the final document. And in case you're wondering, like, what is this proof of funds? Well, this is before AI technology was really used. My dear friend, Mr. Anthony, who stepped out for just a second, used his great knowledge of forms and created this form right here. Come on, you little monster. This is what it looks like. Show you what it looks like. Come here. No, you can't show me. And honestly, this is forms that are provided to you by, in this fictitious transaction, by your broker. This is what it looks like. Proof of funds. Funds are in my account. Money total 1.5 billion. I wish. I wish. I know it's a new set of headaches if you have $1.5 billion. It'll put me in a different tax bracket, but that's different. Now, if in my situation, you see here that it's highlighted with Charlene client, and you saw where the date, let me move the date over a little bit. You could be able to adjust it if you wanted to. As you go up, you're going to see other spots where it's automatically flagged for the agent for the client to sign. But if there's any errors, that's when you would go through it and make the corrections. For example, let's go down to proof of funds. Since this is a PDF that originated outside of Zipforms, you have to drag and drop it. So if I were to drag signature, put it there, and then I could put the person's name. Where's the name? Right there, and put it underneath. And if I want to do a text box, I can do a text box and then put it right here. Something to, oh, where did you go? Let's try again. Something to read. So this is something that you would put in that the client wouldn't have to touch. But here the client would have to sign and then automatically populates the date. The person's name is already there. You can adjust it if you wanted to make it look pretty. And so on. But if you see any spots, for example, that it's missing something, like for example, Charlene is a client. So I have a checkbox. I could drag by clicking the checkbox and putting it where over buyer and then releasing it. This will automatically put a spot where our dear friend Charlene has to click that box, a required box to be saying that she is the buyer in this transaction. But the great majority of the time, roughly more than 95% of the time, you won't have to do anything to this because they'll automatically do it for you. But hence, I do recommend you go page by page to make sure that everything that has to be signed, checked is done. Or flagged to be able to be done by a client. You don't want to send anything out and realize, oops, Zipforms didn't flag it to be signed or initialed. Now we have to go upload the document back in and then have to manually drag and drop it for the client to be able to sign it once again. And you don't want to inconvenience the client any more than they have to be. And then after that, there's layouts. You can change the layouts if you wanted to. There's options and feedback. For my signature looks like that. Very grandiose, I know. But you can change it to whatever you wanted to. Now, let's say I wanted to say, you know what? I'm only going to focus not on Leo, to sign it. I'm not gonna focus on Charlene to sign it. I can come down here and I can move this out of the way. I can remove myself from the transaction. And when I do so, then we only have one signer, Charlene. And you'll see that only her signature is now part of the transaction. And after this, send out for signatures. And this is where I could be able to say, expires on this date. And I could change it to a different date if I wanted to. Let's say November 1st. I could send out reminders every 3 days at 9 o'clock is too early. Let's say 10 o'clock. And then send it. So now it'll be sent out to my client, and Charlene will now get the email and go through that process. The next class is going to go into more detail of what the client will see when they get the transaction. And in case you're wondering, okay, so how do I know the client has signed it or done anything to it? I go within the transaction and click e-sign, and then there it is. It just says sent. That's all. If it was finished, then it would show as that's been completed. Any questions? I know that was a lot of information, but if you just practice and practice, you'll get this. Honestly, trust me. Because how I learned was watching Anthony's videos and having him talk to me about how to use Zipforms. You had a question?
Sometimes the client says, okay, I didn't get it. I want to redone. Resend it. Yeah. So where should I forgot, where should I do it again? The same signature. I don't want to do it start from the start, just I want to resend.
Resend the documents to
Yes.
them?
Then-
Resend invitations right there.
Oh,
Because if they said, oh, I didn't get that email yet, then you go in here and resend it to them. And then follow up with them, because maybe it's going to their spam folder. That's unfortunate. With Google, with Gmail is pretty good, blocking stuff, but sometimes it blocks too much.
Have your email to that person correct. Because I had an issue the other day where I mistyped one letter. And it tells you that it didn't go to them in your own email box, in your inbox. But if you click on signing details and you look to see who it went to, you can recheck to make sure that email and actually change the email in that same section.
So I'll go to signing details.
Yeah, so that little blue box, if you click on it, you can make even changes.
Thank you.
And
I've
then
never
that's
tried
it.
that before.
Yeah. So you still need to go back to parties and change it in parties, because that's obviously your main feed. But temporarily, like if someone said, I'm at work, can you please send it to my work? You can change that once. It doesn't do it permanently, but it will change.
Good lesson. I'm glad you're part of this class.
I'm here for the next one, but.
Okay. I appreciate that. So there we go. We all learned something new. So yeah, if there is a mistake with the email, definitely take advantage of it. And if you have anything to add to this class, hey, by all means, put your 2 cents in, because honestly, we all will benefit from helping each other out. So that is how we do a transaction. The next step will be create template. Now, anybody? Yes, good question.
So after the form gets sent, does it now go into that folder that we created originally, the
Signed documents?
yeah, signed documents, or does it have to be signed before it goes in there?
It has to be signed first before it goes in there.
All right, so if the client calls us up and says, hey, can you go through this with me? Where do we find the documents that we sent? Is it in the transaction on that right-hand side?
You can either pull that particular form right within the transaction. Just clicking that form if you wanted to. If you want to go to e-sign, I won't let you do it. Okay. So yeah, you would go into just the documents themselves and look up that particular document, go page by page. Now in our last class, we're going to talk about a share function. I'll just mention it here. If we go into parties, there is an icon here, and there's an icon right there, the share function. The share function allows you to be able to share a document with your client or anyone, really. If you're the mentor, you can share it with a new agent. But this is how you would share a document with somebody, so that way you can explain everything with them all the way through. In case you're working remotely from your client, but if you're sitting right next to them, going through step by step, then you won't have to use this. But yeah, I strongly recommend learning the share function. We're going to touch on this in the advanced tips class. But it's a good question.
What's in the history on that far right-hand side?
Oh yeah, so if you're like wondering like, oh, what have I done in this transaction? Here we go. Create a signed packet. Added proof of funds, etc. Shows you everything that you've done within this transaction. These are your notes from the transaction. Now you can add more notes if you wanted to. Like for example, new note. Sent docs over to client, but she was away to help Leo teach class. And then you would save it. There we go. So every time you do anything with a client, it's a good way to keep notes. So that way you, in case you're asked years from now, or like, okay, well, how come you didn't send the documents out to the client that day? Like, no, I did send the documents out that day. But that particular day, she had to go help out Leo. So I was able to discuss it with the next day. So this is a great way to keep track of every conversation you have with your client. And this is only going to be seen by you. No one else is going to see this. Anything else regarding the history or anything part of this before we touch on templates? So templates. Now you kind of touched on templates earlier. Templates is one of the tabs over here. So as you begin to practice with Zipforms, you'll notice a pattern. These are two of them that I've created in the past. You'll notice a pattern of documents that you're going to need on a regular basis, whether it's doing offers or representing a seller or representing someone who needs to be a renter. You'll see a set of you'll know that you need a set of documents every time you work with a client like this. So that's called a template. Also, for the unique kind of transactions like probate, short sales, you will need a set of documents for those type of transactions. So for those unique type of situations, we recommend also creating a template so that way it's quicker for you that you could take care of that client like that rather than being in that moment like, oh my gosh, what other form do I need for a client for a probate? Because I haven't done a probate in 7 years, for example. Then you would be like, okay, I have to go search now for those forms within the transaction. But if you just set it up here, you're going to be fine. And by the way, the California Association of REALTORS Legal Department, they do update forms from time to time. In fact, the RPA is going to be updated this December. So every time you have a template with different forms, including the RPA, Residential Purchase Agreement, that will be updated here as well. The only time it will not be updated is within the transaction itself. If you have a transaction that already has that form, that is a set of documents that will not be touched, because those are the documents that were valid at that time. But in the future, yeah, I would say create a template. And I'll show you how to do that. But any questions before I do the template? Yes.
It's been an hour. Take 5.
Okay, I'm going to resume the recording. I'm going to resume the recording. The camera's taking it out. Here we go. Yes. There we go. Yes.
Practice and just make updates.
Oh, yeah.
Just make templates so you get used to.
All those documents that you saw, all those transactions, those are all practice. Fictitious people, fictitious transactions, you know, see a property like, oh, that'd be a nice place to live. Let's go practice doing a transaction for them.
Oh.
It's just very important that you don't send documents to the listing agent or anyone else, because you don't want to do it. I certainly don't want to send a $250,000 offer to a property that's probably worth 2.5 million. Because they'll be like, are you missing some zeros? And I'd be like, no, not 250. That's what I want. That's what I can afford right now. Huh. This camera is taking a nap.
Sometimes that happens when you wave your hand, so there you go.
Wave my hand like I don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, so we were talking just a moment ago, in case you needed to watch other classes that we recorded previously, because we record these videos from time to time and we upload it to our video library under education. And you'll see, oh, let's go try again. Video library. So our website, ocrealtors.org, our drop-down menu is education, choose the video library. And then you'll see some different topics. And the one that we're going to talk about is Zipforms. You can see the playlist, go and click the playlist. And you will go ahead and see a number of different choices available. Now, the last class that we had for Zipforms was taught by Anthony. So you'll hear his wisdom. He teaches a class a little bit differently than me. So he may give you a few more tips that I have not included, because you can keep going on for not just 2 hours, you can go on for 5 to 6 hours just talking about Zipform, but we're not going to do that. So I teach it with the information I provide, and he teaches it from the perspective he provides. And there's other classes as well, at tools and tips, and also digital signing services. So in case for some reason you can't find the link to the classes that we sent out to you today, no worries, just look for another class that we taught previously. It'll be the similar information that is taught today will be in those. And all this is from our YouTube channel as well. So in case you're like, oh, where else can I find it? YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. We have some individuals who stepped away for a moment, but let's go into next thing. We're going to talk about templates. So templates is very helpful. There are some tools that are out there to save you time and energy, and this is one of them. I recommend to practice creating templates over and over again, so that way, and create a number of different templates for your future transactions that you may encounter. Just have conversations with your broker to find out what forms you need in a given situation. If you run into a probate 2 years down the road, ask your broker now, what forms do I need in a probate situation or a short sale situation? Ask right now, because you don't want to be rushing at the last minute trying to gather all the forms and be concerned that in the entire time, did I miss a form, or is there a form that my broker wanted me to include and I'm not including it for some reason because I wasn't aware of it? Let's do that now. Put on the legwork right now, so that way it'll save you time and energy. So when we start a template, I'm going to start off with new, just like with the transaction. And you have a choice, just like when you do create a new transaction. You can do a new listing, a new purchase or offer, a new lease or listing. In this practice session, we're going to do a new purchase or offer.
Oh, can we do new listing?
Sure, I can cancel this.
Thank you.
Okay. New listing. And then the name. The name is when I create a name for a template, I don't want to be a specific person's name. I don't want to call it the Tony Bried, last name is Bried. Tony Bried, 123 Main Street in Laguna Hills. Because it's going to be just a general template I'm going to use for future transactions. So we're going to call it just something very easy. OC listings. OC listing. And then we're going to do it as a residential. And then the choices here. Automatically apply this template to all new transactions. Automatically apply this template to listing residential new transactions. But the choice I'm going to choose is do not automatically apply to template do not automatically apply the template to new transactions. Let me control when I want to use it and not use it. Because if I were to choose the other two, it would make sense if I'm only representing a seller and not helping anyone else on the planet. If I'm only helping a seller and no one else, then yeah, I could choose the other two down there on the bottom. But if I'm helping an array of different clients, then I'm going to choose the option that do not automatically apply this template to new transaction. If you want to apply a template onto this template, yeah, you can. It's kind of unusual, but sometimes you may run into a situation where you have to add special documents to a certain transaction and then use, say, a new listing template on top of that as well. But we're going to leave it like this. I'm going to click Save. Okay, so there it is. So first things first, we can add folders if we wanted to. We can say add signed documents. Oh, let's call it signed documents. Signed docs. We can add, let's add a document from that we have on our computer. Browse from our computer. And we'll call it listing agreement form B. Now, this is a fictitious document that was told to us by our fictitious broker to include with every listing presentation, listing transaction. And then now we go into all forms in the top right and click there, all forms. And then you go all the way down, the residential listing agreement. I'll just type in listing. Residential listing agreement. Cancellation of listing. You know, this is where you add all the forms that you needed to. Agent visual inspection. And so on. You just keep on going. If you need to add a document from another library, like let's say the OC Realtors library, then you can be able to add that document there as well. You can add all the documents that you think you may need. You don't have to use the documents here. Like let's say we didn't need the Orange County local area disclosure because let's say the client is, the property is in, let's see, Roland Heights. Or what's another one?
Long Beach.
Long Beach, yes. So Lakewood, Cerritos, etc. So if it's going to be in LA County, then you won't have to use it. Even though when you use the template, it'll populate this form, but you can always delete it from your transaction. But you can keep on going on and on, adding more documents. And when you're done, before you click done, you can just go back to your list and you'll see that here it is, OC listing. And if you want to open it up, excuse me, then there is our template. Now I'm going to show you how to add it, but let me just go ahead here and add a checklist. Excuse me. I have water. I'm good. And add a new checklist. And let's see. Meet client. That would be nice. And then create a new task. Make contact with client and who's responsible for that. This could be me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Make it required. Make it relative. And then these are your choices. 14 days. And then you would say, so this is just a fictitious checklist. You would create your own checklist if you, as you start doing transactions, you will know what you would need to do beforehand or during when you're selling a property. You're more informed about this whole process than we are because unfortunately, we're stuck here in the office all day long. We don't have the real world experiences like you do. So you keep adding more and more checklists onto here, so that way it keeps track of every time you do a process. You'll have something that'll flag you to be able to do something. So,
You know, so what's the benefit of a task again?
the benefit of a task is to keep you on track with the whole process where you're representing a seller or a buyer. So that way you don't miss any steps. You don't miss agent visual inspection. You don't miss the inspections. You don't miss reports. You don't miss following up. You can add your 2 cents in as well.
So adding a task here, how many of you have like transaction assistants? One or two of you, how many of you have personal assistants? Nobody, right? So what's nice about a task is that it's going to help actually set up automatic reminders on your calendar that can get kicked off when you start to report your listings as pending, if I may interject, yeah.
Go ahead, interject, please.
So this was for the listing transaction. So think of this more on your buying side list. So I'm just going to steal your camera here real quick. So think of this as great for your templates, okay? On the buying side template, what are your multiple tasks that you as an agent have to do at the time escrow opens up? Anybody? Nobody knows? Proof of funds are required. What else? Well, that's kind of like right then and there, but when we're talking about due dates, what's due per the contract? Inspections, contingencies, you've got things that you as an agent have to do, right? Yeah? Right?
Yeah.
If you don't know, read the purchase agreement. It says buyer needs to perform these things like minimally by 17 days, right? Depending on how long the escrow period is. So, if I may.
If you may, yes.
So what's nice about this is that you set up these various different tasks. So as Leo was demonstrating about adding in a template, and I'm going to take over his purchase template. Here you've got all the forms, you've got your generic information that you add in on the forms. Then at the very top where it says checklists, you're going to add in the various different checklists, right? So you're going to create a new task under a checklist. Maybe that task name is general inspection, right? And when a general inspection happens, is it on a fixed date or a date relative? Probably a date relative, right? It's going to be required. Is it, how many days do you want to have your inspections done by? Anybody? 17 minimum, but how many of you wait till the 17th day to get an inspection done? When the faster the better, right? So how many of you like to do an inspection at least within 2 or 3 days? Good. 2 or 3 days before or after a time period. Do you do it before acceptance? Do you do it after acceptance? After, right? After, whoops, after offer accepted, right? Now, who's the responsible person for setting up the inspection? Buyer or buyer agent? Buyer agent, right? That's you. That's your job duty. Now you save it. So what the idea here is that you put in all your due dates, your relative due dates, inspection, review of disclosures, right? You put all that stuff in. Now what will happen is that when you apply that transaction or create a transaction and you apply that template, what this now does or now is required is for you to do some transaction maintenance. As Leo pointed out earlier, you have the summary screen here of your transaction. How many of you actually have gone through this entire summary screen? One person. Excellent. So your summary screen, number one, tells you your status of your transaction. Those of you who are veteran veterans or seasoned agents in the business, how many of you have at least 100 to 1,000 transactions that are considered active in that list? Probably a lot of you, right? Right? It's because you never change the status of your transactions. So this is where you all need to do some transaction maintenance. Just like a listing agent is needed to be responsible for changing the status of their listing in the MLS, you as an agent should be changing the status of your transaction. So here, when we get into escrow, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go into my zip forms and I'm going to make it from active to pending. Now, here on the rest of the summary screen, Leo will start to slowly scroll down. Here, we've got the property summary. We got the MLS listing number, the address, the parcel number, the legal description, the block track. Hold on. Then we come down below to here just a little bit to the purchase summary. Now, under the purchase summary, we've got some major things here. Yes, we've got the offer date, what's written on the contract. We got an expiration date. But look here, we've also got an offer acceptance date. Do you think that the moment I put in an offer acceptance date here, what do you think might happen with that task? It's going to start putting in due dates based around this date. On top of, you got your purchase price, you got your financing, you got your deposits. By the way, you also have a way of putting in your escrow number. So now you can keep track of your transaction escrow electronically. Now, if we'll scroll down a little bit further, let's have a little fun here. We've got the buying side commission. The buying side commission says percentage or dollar amount. Did you put a dollar amount on your purchase transaction here, Leo?
Yeah,
I think you did.
250,000.
Guess what? Put in there what you put in on your BRBC. So maybe Leo put in 4% on his BRBC that his client signed, right? Now when he hits tab, he's getting $10,000 from this offer, right? Here also, you've got your admin fee. So you got to keep track of all your expenses, your admin fee, your other deductions like your office fee, desk fee, documents fee, whatever else your broker may charge you. On top of, maybe you were referred this client by another agent. You can put in that agent's name and how much you're reminding yourself you're going to pay them. Or, better yet, maybe you're working with a business partner. I'm teaming up with this young lady right here. So I'm going to put our names here and what our commission splits are. 50-50, 75-25, 99-1, whatever we've agreed to on our team. Anybody like that?
Yeah.
By the way, if you're representing both sides, but you notice here you've got the listing summary data and then the listing side commission, that's only going to be filled in if this is a listing transaction. And by the way, this stuff here, listing side, would actually be elevated to the top if this was a listing. But more importantly, when I put in that offer acceptance date, now what will happen, because we put in all those tasks in that template, if you'll go back up, Leo, all the way up. Once we put in this information and put in that offer acceptance date, under the tasks tab at the top.
Sure.
Well, here you've got your checklist. So go to the gray bar checklist.
Checklist, yep.
Now all of a sudden you're going to have due dates. Oh, look, offer date was October 19th, list date plus any other task here. Now, at the very top, next to where it says doc inbox, there's a choice that says tasks
Doc inbox.
at the very top.
Got it.
Tasks. When you go to the tasks tab, Leo,
You
tasks,
put the-
please, brother.
Tasks. Got it.
Tasks.
Ah,
Here, this will have an entire calendar of what's due. Now, you'll see here that it's defaulted to Zipform's calendar. Now, how many of you just have a Zipform's calendar? Everybody, right? But wait a minute. How many of you have your own cell phone? How many of you have Gmail? If you have Gmail, guess what you have access to? Your Gmail Google Calendar. How many of you live and breathe and die by your own calendar on your own phone? Siri, set me up an appointment. Alexa, set up an appointment, right? Well, guess what? Click on that down arrow next to where it says Zipform's calendar. And now you can merge either your Google Calendar or your Microsoft Outlook calendar to Zipforms. So now, anytime a task is added here in Zipforms, it's automatically going to be added to your electronic calendar that your phone, your computer, your tablet devices will then have access to. So when you wake up in the morning and you go, Siri, what's on my calendar today? It's going to go, you got a reminder that you got an inspection due in 2 days. You've got to review documents in 5 days, all this other stuff. Now, those of you who did not raise your hands about having a TC or a private assistant or anything like that, you're now having electronic assistant. Anybody like this?
Yes.
Anybody excited about using this today?
Yeah.
Good. So set up your templates with these tasks. So that way you don't have to think about, oh gosh, what did the contract say? Because you can also adjust that per transaction. Like, oh, I'll go to my calendar and I'll go, well, you know what? I don't have 5 days when I only have a 10-day escrow. I need to shorten that up a little bit more. And then, of course, as tasks are completed for that transaction, you can then go into that transaction and mark those things complete. That way, you can look at the entire transaction period and go, whoo, I've made everything on my list. I set up the moving date, I set up the movers, I did this, I did that, I did the other thing, all for my clients, which now shows value. The whole point of why we have that ERBC is to show customer service and value, yes?
But
Yes.
Google blocked me from the calendar.
Google blocked you from your calendar?
Blocked. Google blocked me. Google Calendar, I tried to connect the Google Calendar.
So then you're probably going to need to go into your Google account and allow for Zipforms to link up to it. You'll have to change, you'll go into Google, so go into your account, go into your settings, and then you're going to need to free that up.
Okay.
Okay? Now, if you don't know how to do that, funny enough, Orange County Realtors, we have a tech help, OC Tech helpline. What is it? 877-367-3156,
I always have to cheat.
I think.
Yeah, I always have to cheat to look it
I'll
up.
have to cheat and look at that, but don't quote me on that number. But, yeah, you could do that. And by the way, you can set up tasks to remind the other agent for yourself, right? Hey, agent, make sure you give me those HOA docs. Hey, agent, make sure that you provide me the necessary disclosures, because as you all know, even though I've got 17 days, I get 5 extra days from time of review. That's big for the TDS. Did you all know that? The TDS states that if anything gets modified on the TDS, they get 5 extra days to review. Well, what's one of the big things on the TDS that we got to remember? Our avid listing agents. If you don't do an avid or do section 3 of the TDS, and then you do it later on, that gives that person 5 extra days to review that document. Even if they remove their contingency.
And
Did you
TDS,
not realize that?
and TDS stands for?
Transfer disclosure statement.
Okay.
Or the SPQ, seller property questionnaire, or the ESD, estimated seller disclosure. So be really, really careful.
There's no other way to use this if you don't have Gmail, right?
No, there's also Outlook.
Yeah, but I'm using. And I.
Well, you have a Gmail account?
No, I use that.
Oh. Then I would talk to C.A.R. If you're using iCloud's email and iCloud's calendar systems, start talking to C.A.R. so that they can push that for to Ziploc or to Lone Wolf. Because yeah, they should be able to start freeing that up. But right now it's just those two.
Yeah, because I just use calendar. When you get the number, will you write it on the board this afternoon or today? For
The C.A.R.
tech help?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
For which class? I mean, for what number?
The tech help. Tech help.
Why don't
All
I
right,
just
Bill.
do that right now?
And then you can take the camera back over, sir.
Really? Hi.
You have to signal
Yeah, because I made it point to me. And now I'm gonna point it right back at him. There we go.
Oh, that's just a lot of pressure on me. Just a lot.
Sorry, I just love talking about tasks for templates.
No, and he is, I've learned from what I know about Zipforms, I learned from Anthony. It really has helped being with an expert like him on board with us. The OC Tech helpline, it's 877-562-3156. That is to help you with the unique computer issues, cell phone issues, router issues, printer issues. They're the individuals you would contact to see if there's a software or hardware issue. They're not going to be the ones to be able to speak to you about how to use Zipforms. They're not going to be the ones to help you do a PowerPoint, that sort. It's just to see if there's a problem with the computer or any hardware. So it's a part of your free benefit with the Orange County Realtors. So I strongly recommend take advantage of it. Also, they're located in Florida. So you're not going to be able to take your computer or hardware to them. It's just a simple phone call to see if there's a problem with the actual hardware. And if there is, then you can be able to contact someone locally for assistance. But that is the OC Tech helpline.
I was totally off. I think I got 3 numbers right.
You got 877 right, so
There.
I'll give you that. Okay, waking this up. Good. So there we were. We're talking about templates. Should we create a? Oh, let me go back. Okay. So we can create a transaction right now with the template, with the new template that we did. So go into transactions. We're going to do a new listing. We're going to type in Alex as a name. We're going to say it's 7777 Edinger Avenue. And then we will put in the address 7777 Edinger Avenue in the city of Fountain Valley. I know it's not Fountain Valley, but I'm just practicing. It's going to be residential. And then we scroll down just a teeny bit. And then we go into My Templates. And then we're going to see Personal OC Listing. And once I do so, I'm going to click Save. And after clicking Save, I can now complete the summary section, but more importantly, let's show you the documents. The documents have been loaded, and including the folder that says Signed Documents. So you can see that they're all here. And if you didn't need this, then yes, you can remove them. Or if you don't need this one, you can remove that as well. How do you remove it? You can either choose the little square that is in the top left corner of the icon, or you can just choose this little drop-down menu under More Actions, and you can click Delete if you wanted to. If I click Delete, there it is, goes bye-bye. If I wanted to click this box, then you have a whole new set of choices, and I would click Delete. Now, that doesn't remove the documents from your template, it just removes it from this transaction. So the template will still be used, it'll be unharmed, and it can be used for future transactions. It's just that this particular transaction, I don't need those documents. So hence the reason why I dumped them. You got a question?
Yes, in this position, can I change the template when I went to the wrong template? Or I should return it back from the first?
We can go back into, let's see.
What was the question?
The question is, can we, if we chose the wrong template,
Should I go from first, delete that one, or I can change it?
You can add another template.
yes, and apply templates. And then there's my templates, and if I wanted to say, oh, let's just choose that one, for example, then this will now populate those documents here. There we go. So it's added more documents. You can, so as you have unique templates, you can continue adding documents with those unique transactions that you're gonna run into in the future. From time to time. Yes, question?
When do documents go into the archive folder?
When do documents go in the archive folder?
They're automatically in there. They, for some reason, about 5-6 years ago. Excuse me. They made that folder come out. Technically, every transaction is automatically archivable. I don't know why they have it separate. It's just there. If you move a document in there, it's still gonna be right there. So I don't know why they did that. They just did.
So everything we're looking at right here is also
Automatically
archived?
archived.
Okay,
And then when you add a PDF file to a transaction, your transaction currently right now will stay there for at least seven years to potentially indefinitely. So, C.A.R, I do believe, was working on, or still is working on blockchain. So they don't want to get rid of any data on any transaction. So unless the transaction is physically deleted, it will be in your transaction list indefinitely.
got it.
But are you asking just in a transaction in general, when it goes into that file that sits on that person's document site?
Yeah, like more
It
so.
never is in there. It never is in there. So like when I do my original listing agreement, and it's just the form itself, because it's just shows how I populated the original document. I moved that original document to the archive. There's a difference there.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I don't have to see it anymore because I've already filled it out for my client. I've already sent it to them. They've already signed it, right? So I want to get it off my desktop. I take that original document, that's the form, right? And you have to move it yourself into archive.
Okay.
I think he's talking about when you're done with the transaction, or whether it failed, or whether it's active, or whether it's closed, pending, yeah. I think he's talking about a different question, I think. Is that right? Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do all these documents automatically go into archive?
No,
Okay,
you just have, you can put them in there, but it doesn't really serve a purpose according to C.A.R. Everything is automatically archived already on their systems, so that really doesn't serve any other purpose other than
Getting it out of your way.
getting it out
Or
of
you're
the way.
actively working on, trying to find, because what happens is when you finish with your cell, you've got 30+ documents in there, right? And then maybe some people have signed and maybe the other person signed, so you have multiple PDFs on signed documents. You've got so many, you don't even know which one to look at, right? So I moved them to a file once they have been,
Eventually, they'll be changing the screen in the next couple of years. I think within the next year, where this will look like the document editing, so you won't even look at that particular folder anymore. So, eventually it's gonna look a little different. But, sorry, Leo.
No, it's not. No apologies. We're all learning. That's great. Yeah, but yeah, once again, the archive folder, when it popped up years ago recently, we were like, okay, what does that do? Because we were like, okay, it already saves it there. You can, if you want to create a folder, you can create a folder. You can call it archive if you wanted to, or you can call it signed docs or whatever you wanted to, and drag the documents that you wanted to into it. Everyone has their own method of being organized. And this is just maybe a recommendation from C.A.R. saying, okay, we're going to throw in a archive folder so that way you have a way of, like in her case, cleaning up the transaction to make it easier to see. So this is how we do templates. Well, we have with about 12 minutes left of the class. Any other questions? I know we covered a lot, didn't we? Once again, all of this it's being recorded. We're going to send out the link to you, probably not today, but probably tomorrow we'll send out to you. So that way you can review this, and we'll also provide links to our website so that we can check out our website for additional information that may assist you with doing transactions using Zipforms, etc. If you need further assistance, there is some great help. Besides talking to myself or Anthony, you can also go into the guided help, which is in the bottom right corner, and it will help you with some quick tips. And there's webinars that they offer, which will be different than our own. Under the question mark in the top right corner, there's also Lone Wolf Community community, individuals that are using Zipforms and app guided help, and send us feedback if you have a question, like for example, adding iCloud to see if perhaps they can incorporate that within Zipforms. If you do reach out to the Lone Wolf community in app guided help, that's going to be for using Lone Wolf to be able to assist you with answering questions. They're not going to be able to answer legal questions that are unique to California. You're going to have to contact the California Association of REALTORS for assistance on that. If you're looking for a phone number for that, you know what? I'll cheat and go look for a phone number for you right now. Anthony, you had a question?
No, did you touch on Forms Advisor?
Forms Advisor and Forms Tutor, I would talk about that in the last one. Forms Advisor is gone. Forms Tutor is around.
That's right, that's what I meant, Forms Tutor.
Yes. I'll touch on that in just a moment. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Where are you? I know, I watched too much Top Gun when I was a kid. I apologize. Let's see. There it is. So if you need assistance, let me move this little monster out of the way. Oh, this is from Zipforms. I don't want that. Get you a different one. This is from Zipforms itself. You can contact them. 213-839-8227 from the California Association of REALTORS if you need to call them. The other one that I wanted to give to you would also have the legal hotline. Let me give you that. Oh, there it is. I think this is the one I created long ago. And we have high-speed internet slowly populating that. There we go. Something I created long ago. Okay, so let me get rid of this out here. There we go. So we have the California Association of REALTORS. Their phone number, once again, is 213 area code 739-8227. You can also contact ZipLogics. They're the ones that can help you with any software issues within Zipforms. They're open 24 hours weekdays, with the exclusion of, I think, some holidays, major holidays. Weekends are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Excuse me, on the weekends. The legal hotline is there in case you have any legal questions to ask. 213-739-8282. It's also on the back of your membership guide. If you still have your membership guide handy, she has one example of membership guide. You can also find our membership guide on our website, which will also have that information available to you. But if you need our assistance, either myself or Anthony, yeah, reach out to us. We're more than happy to assist you. We'll be doing our best to answer your Zipforms questions. We don't have the capability to go into your profile to answer your questions. But we can definitely set up a Zoom link and be able to have the conversation with you. If you need to reach me for any reason, my phone number is 714-375-9313. And my extension number is 239. Once again, my phone number is 714, area code 375-9313. And my extension number is 239. Anthony, you can call the same number and hit extension number 104. If we don't answer for whatever reason, to leave us a voicemail, or you can send us an email. We'll be more than happy to get back to you as soon as we possibly can. I guess, any questions with anyone else before we call it a day? Forms Tutor. Oh, a voice in the future, a voice afar. All right, Mr. Anthony.
What is Forms Tutor?
Forms Tutor is a person that is a wonderful person to help you. And you know what's so funny is that my PowerPoint is locked.
And it's it.
I am. There we go. Wow. Almost had a quiet meltdown over here. I love software. Okay, Forms Tutor. So what's Forms Tutor? Has anybody used Forms Tutor? Okay. Let me sign in real quick. Now, Forms Tutor can be found within Zipforms. But, what, let's see, go to the transaction, there we are. Forms tutor is found right here. Forms tutor has,
So what is form suitor?
let's go back into it before I explain what it is. Forms tutor can be found under the transactions, or actually under transaction tools in the top left corner. You click the drop down menu of transaction tools, TXN tools, and click Forms tutor. So Forms tutor will assist you with helping you with completing, understanding the forms. Not all the forms, but many of the forms that are available that we use on a regular basis. This is through the C.A.R. website. So CAR.org. So Forms tutor is right here, and we access it. Of course, you have to have a username, password form, C.A.R. to be able to access it. And then we just scroll down and we can find the forms that we need. So for example, if we click the residential purchase agreement, and we can take a look at pages, say 9 through 12. This will give you some beautiful blue dots that you're like, what does these blue dots mean? And if I float my mouse over the blue dot and click it, it will give me an explanation of this section. 11L2. The seller must promptly request and provide the contractually required documents specified, including statements about age restrictions, preliminary list of defects, etc. If you don't want to read it, you just want to read along or listen to a voice from C.A.R. This should be playing it out loud.
The seller must promptly request and provide the contractually required documents specified, including statements about age restrictions, preliminary list of defects, if any, or written notice of settlements involving common area defects, including the names and contact information for the homeowners association governing the property. This agreement requires the delivery of 12 months of homeowners.
I could fall asleep to this voice. It's wonderful. Very wonderful.
You need to do a voice person.
Yeah.
The one that
Unfortunately,
you
they all recorded it, but it's a nice way of getting 24-hour-a-day training on your forms.
Yes,
Is it on the updated form?
this is on the
Scroll down
update.
to the bottom of that.
Sure. Sometimes it lags behind from the most recent form. This one's from 12/22, so no.
No, they haven't updated it yet.
And they will hopefully update it soon because I'm gonna update again this December. Any other questions regarding Forms tutor? I recommend take advantage of it. I think it's 30 forms, 30 or 40 forms that are part of the Forms tutor, the most common forms. But it's not gonna be all of them, unfortunately. Because it does take a lot of time to have that wonderful voice, get the highlights of every section of every form disclosure.
That's a great way of learning.
Yes.
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 But then this way you'll find but it doesn't go from one section to the other. But maybe you're an insomniac and you need help getting to sleep, this will help you a little bit. A nice monotone voice.
If you really want to sleep well, I would say go to Education and Video Library. And then you're going to hear Zipforms. And you'll be hearing my voice and Anthony's voice teach you all about Zipforms. Although Anthony's a little bit more excited than I am. But you can listen to definitely us talk about Zipforms. And it's it's roughly about 2 hours each class that we record for you.
I can't put you to sleep in 2 hours class, I don't know.
Yes. But we try. But so definitely take advantage of the resource that we have available. So we have the videos you can watch at any time. You can have Zipforms assist you within the app, within the Zipform site as well. And you can also contact the C.A.R. website through the Forms tutor that can assist you with that. And you have us. We can assist you with your questions. The next class will be at 1 o'clock. Enjoy your good lunch. Places to eat around here. There's some places down the street that way on Talbert. And there's some places over the bridge on Brookers that you can go to as well. those that are online, we thank you for joining us today. We definitely recommend that you stick around for the next class at 1 o'clock. It'll be a different Zoom link. Any other questions before we go?
I have a question about this super.
Okay. Well, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. If I don't see you.
Yeah.
Thank you.